What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, it looks like Nintendo does indeed have another event planned for this week. With them making the announcement, it also plays into a certain rumor that's been going around that, of course, then points to a Nintendo General Direct, which we'll go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about another big Microsoft or Xbox game that seems to be making the jump to PlayStation 5 here pretty soon, and this could be one of the biggest releases we've seen so far make the move. And we have a big eShop sale that is currently going on, as well as other digital sales that I think really shows why you need as much choice as possible outside of just the official Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft store. All of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with Yooka Replaylee, which is basically an updated or just a newer version of Yooka-Laylee that came out what feels like an eternity ago. But it's being designed for current platforms as well as the Switch 2. If you remember, that was the game that was announced with little eyes next to the Nintendo logo, which was good marketing on their part because it got everyone really talking about it. But we can see this was posted over on the PM Studio. This is for Playtonic here, Playtonic Games. The release date announcement is coming soon. Apparently, the game itself, or the update even, is content complete, and there's working to iron out any bugs or issues and stuff in the game that have been found. So it does make me wonder if this is something they shadow drop it or just, hey, it's out now. But it does seem like something they'll make the announcement and then it's out pretty quick after that. All right, so Gamescom is coming up. I don't know if they're going to announce it to coincide with that or if they're even part of any of the shows there. It seems like they can just kind of, nowadays especially, that you just kind of throw the information out there and then it'll make the rounds pretty quick. As for me, am I going to go back to Yooka-Laylee? I mean, it was an okay 3D platformer. I'm curious some of the changes they've made and enhancements even for the newer systems, so yeah, I'll give it a look when it comes out. Also, we have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that is making the jump from PC to consoles, but not every single one. And this is a peculiar omission here, but we can see this over on Gamatsu, where they say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown coming to Xbox Series and Switch on August 14th. It's currently out on PC, and if you remember, this was sort of that turn-based style TMNT game. It kind of looked almost like a board game that was as it was moving around, and while it didn't light up the scores on something like Metacritic, people on PC seem to be pretty happy with it on places like Steam with very positive reviews overall, and it's a $20 game, so I don't necessarily go in with huge expectations or anything. It's from developer Strange Scaffold, and they have done games similar to this in the past. Now, with the console version, it'll introduce a new remix mode, which features more content, more enemies, and increased difficulty. This mode will be added to the PC version via a free update alongside the console release. So if you already have this on PC, I guess check in on or around August 14th, and you should get an update with these additional features. So it's interesting to see some of the different takes or different genres work their way in for something like a long-running franchise like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I was eyeing this up. I saw that it was on PC. I was thinking about it, but I also figured maybe we would eventually get it to consoles, which then could lead maybe to a physical release down the road. So that's really what I'm keeping an eye out for. But again, August 14th. So look out for this one in like a week or so. Oh, and tomorrow, Battlefield 6 will start its early access for beta. That's where we are. Beta, like open betas, closed beta, they're even getting early access periods. Well, I guess in a way it allows them, that being EA, to really gauge the traffic and see how servers will keep up as they slowly let people in. Well, it doesn't seem very difficult to get an early access code, as you can see this over on their official account, where they're saying, watch 30 minutes of any creator streaming Battlefield 6 on Twitch during August 7th to the 8th to unlock open beta early access. Now, early access runs from August 7th to the 8th, then the first weekend for open beta will be the 9th to the 10th, and then the weekend 2 will be the 14th to the 17th. And from there, I've even seen people just giving out codes constantly. So I'm going to see if I can get an early access code because I want to get as much time as possible with Battlefield 6 in some of this early access period. So I'm on the lookout right now. Otherwise, I guess I'll just wait until the open beta goes live this weekend and I'll log some hours there. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and another presentation that they've now announced, which we can see over on their official account. They say, join us this Thursday, August 7th at 6 a.m. Pacific for a new Indie World Showcase. Tune in for roughly 15 minutes of new announcements and updates on indie games coming to Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch. That's obviously very important. They say Nintendo Switch 2, as there's been a lot of discussion around the idea that many studios don't necessarily have dev kits right now, so while they could play this off as, yeah, it's backwards compatible on the Switch too, so clearly all these games are also for that, I mean, they do differentiate these through logos during, this most recent partner showcase, so I assume something similar will take place here with this indie world. Now, going into it, it's anyone's guess really as to which indie games could be here, since a lot of the time you'll have just brand new ones announced that we've never seen before. And that is exciting because indie games do tend to come up with very unique ideas that big AAA publishers will then take and expand on. I mean, it's just, that's kind of where the most creativity comes from, and I think we all already know that. So that's one of the reasons it's interesting to tune in, just to see even one or two weird and wacky and out of left field ideas that, who knows, could turn into like a legitimate franchise, like a big franchise from a AAA company or something. But still, this has brought up questions around Nintendo's plan right now, because a few days ago, actually, a person on YouTube, Switchforce, did put this out that there was going to be another Nintendo presentation this week. It seemed like last week they were also pushing for the idea of a Thursday Direct, although I think many people, by the time the week started, were like, yeah, Nintendo Direct of some kind is this week. Ends up being a partner showcase. All right. But they did mention partner showcase, an indie world, and then something else. So I think we are looking at that. All right. Partner showcase, indie world, and then a general direct. And it would make sense for the general direct to be in September, although I don't think it's going to be late in September, because it's going to be very difficult for them to announce some of these games and then get them out with a, we'll say, reasonable marketing time frame. You probably want more than, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks for Metroid Prime 4, considering you may want to also release, just saying, Nintendo, not a bad idea, Metroid Prime 2 and 3, just get people sort of acclimated to the series. You get Remastered, that's already out. Maybe that gets an update, so it's Switch 2 Enhanced. Then you get 2 and 3, and then you get Metroid Prime 4, I think, in November. So that's kind of what we're looking at, all right? What are the release dates for Kirby Air Riders, Metroid Prime 4, and Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment? But for now, we're looking towards that indie world. And I already know what you're thinking. This is it. Hollow Knight Silksong is going to be... Now, I've said this before, guys. I kind of mentioned where I believe Hollow Knight Silksong will get its release date, and that will be at Gamescom with Microsoft, all right? I do not expect any kind of showing for a Hollow Knight Silksong on Thursday, all right? So just put that out of your mind for now. If it happens, hey, I'll be shocked too. All right, so look towards Gamescom for all the Hollow Knight people out there. For now, though, hey, 15 minutes, we'll see what they have. The thing I'm really curious to keep an eye out for, though, are the Switch 2 versions that get announced, if any. Again, they could operate through backwards compatibility, but with the discussion around dev kits being very scarce, I'm interested to see which indie studios do have access to make these Switch 2 specific games. So that's the big thing for now, to keep an eye out for which indie games will come to Nintendo's new platform and which ones may shadow drop, what demos we're going to get. That's usually the exciting thing with indie worlds, is we tend to come out the other side of it with a new game to play right there, or even a new demo to download. So at least for that, should be fun. Just keep your expectations in check and don't expect Hollow Knight Silksong, but if it's there, hey, go and be surprised. Next up, let's talk about Xbox Game Pass games for August. That's going to run towards the end of the month, although I think there's going to be some other announcements here, especially at Gamescom. This is just sort of you could almost say the calm before the storm, where I think we're going to see all kinds of stuff at Gamescom with Microsoft and Game Pass. But for now, we can see this posted up over on Xbox Wire, news.xbox.com, where they show available right now Rain World. Now, here's the thing, we're still dealing with this Game Pass Ultimate, PC Game Pass Standard, and as I was going through, many of these games are also just coming to Game Pass Standard or just moving into that service for the first time, despite already being into Game Pass Ultimate. So, for example, we have Citizen Sleeper 2, that's August 6th, Lonely Mountain Snow Riders, Mech Warrior 5, Clans, Orcs Must Die. Those are all just in Game Pass Standard on August 6th, all right? So that's the big thing here. But then something going into Game Pass Ultimate, which I think is an awesome entry, Assassin's Creed Mirage. That's Game Pass Ultimate, August 7th, also PC Game Pass. And that to me, that's a really fun Assassin's Creed game. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't feel like there's just way too much going on the map. It's a much more focused entry. So to me, that's an easy recommendation, especially there going into Game Pass, specifically of Game Pass Ultimate. We also have like Aliens Fireteam Elite, August 12th. That is going into all of them, Ultimate, PC, and Standard. We have Nine Kings, that's the game preview on PC, August 14th. So again, the big one I would recommend here, Assassin's Creed Mirage. This, for the most part, appears to be really just a big push for Game Pass Standard. So if that's the version of Game Pass that you have, this was a pretty good blog post or news post over on Xbox Wire. For now, though, if you're a Game Pass Ultimate member, again, Assassin's Creed Mirage, and then look towards Gamescom. Because I do think Microsoft is going to show up with some drops maybe right then and there for Game Pass Ultimate, or just make some announcements to work to close out the month of August and then naturally start up September. Next up, let's talk about a big Xbox game, a big Microsoft game that seems to be prepared to make the jump to PlayStation 5. And this isn't shocking. We've heard about this before. It just kind of feels like it's getting pushed further and further into the distance. Although I think when it does go to PlayStation 5, it's going to do pretty well there when it launches, and that's Starfield. Now this, we can see posted over on MP First, where they say, according to our sources, they were told that Starfield won't be released in 2025, partly due to the RPG's weak sales of the first expansion, Shattered Space, which I will say, Shattered Space, kind of a letdown. The best part of Shattered Space is like the first hour or so. After that, it just kind of falls off a cliff, I would say. Like, the interest for it, I was not at all, like, pulled through that expansion. So, yeah, it makes sense that maybe you would launch with something a bit more enticing. They say Microsoft is leaning toward releasing the Starfield PS5 version in spring 2026. For those not in the US, spring starts the middle of March and runs until mid-June. From what we were told, Starfield's release on PS5 is planned to coincide with the game's second expansion and other quality of life updates. We are also not expecting any announcement about the PS5 version of the game at this August Gamescom, so don't expect it to be shadow drop like Bethesda's Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered release a few months ago. So I think this is going to be a situation similar to what they've done with something like Forza Horizon 5, where they just show up on social media, hey, there's an update for Starfield. Oh yeah, also it's going to PlayStation 5. And then we'll just kind of let the internet do its thing. There'll already be a lot of eyeballs on it for that second expansion, which I'm sure they'll be detailing that, and then again, quality of life stuff. And the PS5 version comes into play. And look, I know Starfield still seems to be this like controversial thing with Bethesda, as like it's not good at all. No, Starfield is a good game. And one of the more annoying things about Starfield is it's a really interesting game when you beat it. And that's like as far as we can go because, yeah, then it's just spoiler territory. But many of the reviews weren't able to talk about the ending of the game because it's just complete spoilers, despite there being a very interesting mechanic that I think ties everything together very, very nicely for what Starfield, kind of the environment, the universe, the atmosphere that Starfield is trying to portray. So I do recommend it. Like when it comes to PS5, if you haven't played it yet, it is a very interesting, very different, very unique title. But for now, we'll have to see what they have for this new expansion, because that to me was the biggest letdown with Shattered Space. Maybe they can make a comeback here with that second expansion and some other interesting parts with quality of life and different updates. But for now, look towards 2026. And as they mentioned, don't expect them to announce even months in advance. I think this will be something they will announce and then it comes out relatively quickly afterwards, maybe like 6 to 8 weeks. So keep an eye, I guess, on their social media accounts for that. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a big eShop sale that is currently going on. Naturally, these are mostly going to be Switch 1 games, but they are backwards compatible with the Switch 2, and we'll see enhanced performance and I guess in some cases resolution, as there are certain games which it's worth looking up because people are making spreadsheets that run at 1080p in handheld mode on the Switch 1, but when you move it over to the Switch 2, it matches up perfectly with the Switch 2 screen. Think of something like Hyrule Warriors. That was a great example for the one from the Wii U that came over that actually ran 1080p handheld mode on the Switch 1, which explains some of the performance issues. Runs great on the Switch 2. Either way though, there are many games that are on sale here on the eShop. And then I did notice there's one game in particular that's on sale at a different store, digital store, and I think it really speaks to why it's important to have different avenues of purchasing the game itself outside of the official store. We'll get to that though towards the end. Let's start here at the top. Most of these sales are ongoing for the next 12 to 14 days, okay? So keep that in mind. You have at least a little bit of time. But I went through and picked some out like usual. Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, that's 75% off. Kirby Star Allies, that's right. There are first-party Nintendo games that are on sale. That's 30% off. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, the frame rate is completely resolved with the Switch 2, 30% off. Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, this is an interesting one. This one runs at 60 frames per second now on the Switch 2 for some weird reason. 75% off there. Tetris Effect Connected. If you have a Switch 1 OLED, awesome title. To play in handheld mode there, 50% off. Spelunky 2 is 60% off. Freedom Wars Remastered, classic title, 30% off. Grounded, 50% off. Castle Crashers, 50% off. Streets of Rage 4 is 65% off. Luminous Remastered, 70% off. Diablo 2 Remastered, 67% off. Monster Hunter Rise is 75% off. Again, runs really well on the Switch 2 there. TMNT Shredder's Revenge, 40% off. Portal Companion Collection. That is Portal 1 and 2. 2 has been fixed with the recent patch on the Switch 2, 75% off. Doom 2016 is 80% off. This game is like $3. Wow. Doom Eternal, 75% off. Quake 1 and Quake 2, take your pick there. Either is 60% off. Just about all Resident Evil games are on sale. I mean, I was going through it. Resident Evil 4, 5, 6, they're all on sale anywhere between 50 to 75% off. Dragon's Dogma, 83% off. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered is 80% off. Burnout Paradise Remastered, awesome game, awesome version, by the way, on the Switch. That's 84% off. And then you have Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City. Either one, 60% off. If you have not played these games, specifically the Batman games, you need to. They're awesome titles. Start with Asylum, then go to City. But if you just kind of missed out on that generation during the 360, I mean, it's tough to explain, I will say that, because this was incredible stuff back then. They still hold up, especially something like Arkham City, which is a phenomenal title. But yeah, overall, pretty good sale. And there are many other games that are on sale that I didn't mention here. However, one thing I did notice as I was searching around, Mario Odyssey is on sale on Walmart.com digitally, $38. To me, this really shows how important it is to have other storefronts have the ability to sell digital versions of these games. Sony right now is doing everything possible to cut that down. Right? Like, they're facing class action lawsuits all over the place, all of that because you can only buy currency cards from any of these different stores to then take to Sony, cash it in, and then buy it for whatever price they deem worthy. All right, that's very important. Because here you can have a Mario Odyssey that's not on sale in the eShop, but Walmart just randomly puts it on sale for $38. So yeah, go check that out. If you don't have Mario Odyssey, it got a Switch 2 enhancement. It looks awesome, runs really well, and it's still an incredible 3D platformer. So yeah, overall, ton of games that are currently on sale. Definitely worth checking out. Let me know some of your recommendations for games that are on sale, though, down below in the comments. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, are you planning to pick up Mafia: The Old Country? Wow, 79% say no, 21% say yes. I do see people in the comments who are like, yeah, I'm gonna wait for a sale. Or some even said they're gonna rent the game because they heard, oh, it's like 10 hours and it's $50. Some were okay with that, like, oh, it's 50, and they've already been very straightforward as to how long the game is exactly. So, I mean, if you're a big Mafia fan, you're definitely picking it up. I get that. I've wondered for a little while now if like a 10-hour game at $50, if that flies with most people, or they're like, nah, it needs to be like $30 or $40. You know, especially when you see, like, I think Claire Obscure Expedition 33, I mean, it's a great release, but I think now it's really changed people's perceptions even around these $50 releases, where they're like, wow, that's a game you get a lot of time out of, you know? Whereas Mafia, there's, hey, quick, concise, narrative-driven game, and it's 10 hours long at $50. I get why people are like, oh, you know, I'll wait for a sale, or I'll borrow it, or I'll rent it, because yeah, you'll probably be able to get through it in a weekend if, of course, you have the time to put into it, and then you'll probably be on to the next game. But for me, I enjoy the Mafia games for the most part, and I'll be picking this one up as soon as it releases this week. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Ring, who says, SD Express cards are so expensive right now. As a customer, I really like to save disk space having actual games on cartridge. Now, I get that. That is one of the big downsides to game key cards, is if it was all on the cartridge, you wouldn't really use any space at all. I mean, for save data, maybe update data, that could be a couple hundred megabytes to a gigabyte or two. It's just, okay, that's manageable. So here, though, with the SD Express cards, if you can find those on cards, I'm still using mine, no problem. The Walmart card that really are Lexar cards in disguise, slightly slower than what like the top tier Lexar cards are that are being sold with the actual branding on it. But it's still quite fast, and it meets the needs of the Switch too. So if you can find those 256, or even better, the 512 card, which I think is still like $53 or $54, pick that up. The thing is, though, it's kind of like right time, right place for that, because you have to just kind of find it in Walmart. Once it goes on sale on their website, it's gone super fast, and then people are just marking them up on places like eBay. So if you're by Walmart and you're going through the electronics section, I guess check in there just to see if they have one of those cards hanging up, because I've gone by a couple of times, as I mentioned before, and I see them sometimes, but it's mostly a 256 gigabyte card. I still have yet to find that 512 in stores, but I'll keep checking to see. Otherwise, though, that might be your best bet, or maybe Cyber Monday later on this year. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you want to check out the latest episode of Click R3, where myself and Ryan talk about the world of PlayStation and what's going on there. I'll leave it right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.